Salam, everyone. This is Tamar from the Soul Therapy Podcast. On today's episode, you will meet my dear friend, Marsha Shackelford. We will be speaking about life after divorce, how to heal from it, how to move on from it, to find the better you. And we will also talk about her beautiful son, Christian, who was diagnosed with autism at age 5, how she dealt with it, and how she moved on to find a space for him and people like him. Hope to see you soon. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hi, I'm Tamar. You're tuned in to Soul Therapy Podcast, where we will explore and talk about what it's like being a business owner as a woman, fashion, art, what it's like being an immigrant, travel, and so much more. I invite you to join me in my journey. Hello, everyone. This is Tamar from Soul Therapy Podcast. Welcome back. If this is your first time watching me, then hello, I'm Tamar. You'll get to know me in the process. Today, I have my wonderful, very colorful friend, Marsha Shackelford, who I have had the pleasure of knowing the last 13 years? 13 and a half years?
No, longer than that, because did I... Christian's 13. Had I had Christian?
No, you were pregnant.
Okay, so around 13.
I designed your house.
Yeah, so around 13.
So about 13 years. So 13 and a half years. So this is all about grown womanish. So things that we go through as grown women, no matter what your background, your color is. I wanted to invite her because we have had many conversations regarding life in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this particular podcast would be dedicated to grown womanish. Just in that exact way, grown womanish.
I like that.
Right.
What you want? I want my grown womanish.
Shit.
Oh, I can say that? Shit. I didn't know it was that kind of podcast.
It is all kinds of podcasts. You could say whatever you please. But I wanted it to be a conversation specifically with you about life after divorce.
Yeah.
And as someone that was married and had gone through a divorce, we've talked about things and our experiences are quite a bit different.
Yeah.
But I think a lot more people can relate to yours than mine. It's not to dim mine, but it's to say mine was a little more simpler in separation. So I wanted to ask you, what is life after divorce like for you?
Wow. I mean, I've lived a lot of life after divorce, to be honest. My youngest son, Benjamin, was 1 when I got divorced, and he's about to turn 12. So it's been about 11 years post divorce. So I've had a lot of life since then, and I think life like after divorce, for me, I mean, that's such a big like.
Okay, so let me. Fair enough. Fair enough.
What part of the life? It's a lot of life.
I told you she's colorful. Let's put it this way. What about how did you start? The starting and the beginning point of life after divorce.
Okay, that's good.
How about we start with that?
Thank you. Give me a starting point.
Gotcha.
Because I can. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think the first thing was just kind of like, sitting in, okay, this is new reality. There was a plan. We have these life plans, and okay, the plan isn't going the way it was going to go. And now I'm sitting in like, there needs to be like a new plan. Like what? And then in the midst of that, I think the thing that I didn't know cognizantly at the time, but what was running the background was I also who am I in the midst of this? Like, who am I? Because before marriage, I'm Marsha, individual. I didn't have children, and what that was. And then I'm going through divorce. I'm like, wait a second. I'm Marsha. I'm living a completely different type of life in a completely type of tax bracket. I have 2 children. Um, what is this?
Mhm.
What is this? And who am I in the midst of that? And
So who was Marsha in the midst of all
child, a mess.
that? That literally is how she would have responded if we were at my living room, like literally. So.
Yeah, I was so I had gotten swept up in a life that was really exciting,
Mhm.
really, but in the midst of that, getting swept up in this life, the who I was
Lost.
yeah, it was lost. It was lost. It was a lot of not knowing that was role playing. But I'll say that having that level of distance from my authentic self and my authentic voice helped me to really begin to start asking the question of
Who am I?
who am I, and what is my motivation, and what do I actually, what do I believe, what do I think, and how do I feel, and recognizing how within the marriage, uh, in the role playing of like wife, mother,
Yeah.
How that authentic voice got smaller and smaller. But then in seeking to find it, finding that the voice and who I was before that really was a role as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, that it wasn't, it wasn't the purest expression of me.
What was that moment like for you when
It
you
wasn't a
realized?
moment. It's not a moment. It's not a single moment. It's a series of moments of like, no, that's not. I don't really
So the
believe
first
that.
time, I guess what I'm trying to ask is like the first time you felt, even prior to that marriage and the divorce, like I hadn't been my authentic self. I was playing a role in that too. What was that thing in that first moment? Like, because you may have had many moments that got you to realize it, but that first one that kind of made you go, huh, was I being authentic to myself all along? Do you remember?
I still don't think it was a moment like that. I think it.
So it's just like a bunch of
It's a bunch of it's more like it's less of a paha and more of an onion.
Huh.
It was
Not the onion.
Yeah, peeling off a layer, and like that's more true, and then peeling off another layer of shit that's even more true. And just and that's come because, and I guess that kind of like accelerates, from my personal healing practices. It started with like meditation, and breathing and Reiki,
which you
and
tell
yoga.
Me often. You often tell me to breathe.
Yes, I tell everyone. I will tell everyone to breathe. Breathe. Breathe
Really
deeply.
breathe.
Breathe here, not here. Breathe here, slow and deep. Slow and deep.
Do you remember the time you took me to my studio? We were at therapy, and I don't know what happened and what we were talking about, but you looked at me and you were just like, how long before you get busy? And I was like, I don't know. And you were like, do you have 20 minutes for me? And I was like, yeah, what you need? I'm thinking I'm going to do something for you. You literally grabbed me by my elbow and dragged me to the back of the building to my studio. And then you were just like laid on the sofa. That's all I got. I don't have my table. And I was like, what in the world? Man, you had my arm in places. I was so confused.
Yeah.
Did that process come for you? And I know the answer I'm asking for the viewers. Did that process come for you in 6 months, in a year? Did that where you got to that space when you're like, my healing process starts, this way? Like, how long did it take you? And the reason why I ask that is because when I talk to different women or men about their recovery. I call it recovery after divorce, because it was a recovery for me. Probably why Therapy Lounge came out of it. But how long before you actually said, "Oh my God, I think I started my healing process"?
Well, I'm going to answer the question, but I'm going to kind of go back
Okay.
to like when I first got separated. When I first was
Okay.
separated, I remember like going home and like drinking a bottle of wine for like, it seemed like a long time, but it was really like 3 days.
A whole 3 days, just 3 days. What's 3 days of wine?
Yeah. And but then I saw a friend had made a post that she had done this challenge where she was running 2 miles a day every day for 30 days, 30 runs in 30 days. And I was like, that sounds good. That sounds like, and I sent her a message, and she was like, I'll do it again, and you can join me. And I started walking every day for 2 miles a day every day, because I knew that I had a lot of like this energy and emotions and like anger and rage, coursing through me. And I knew that the sitting there drinking some wine was not going to be a good way to deal with that. I did know. I was like, this isn't it. This ain't it. This
ain't gonna be for too long.
Yeah, this is not going to take me into a higher vibration, and that's not what I wanted to have. Yeah. So I started running like 2 miles a day, and then it turned into running like races and obstacle course races, like Tough Mudders and Spartans, and then because I got separated in like, I believe it was in October. In May I ran a half marathon, and and for me it is, I didn't know, but that had started. I was starting. That was the beginning of it, of moving stagnant, lower vibration energy out of my body. With running and my breath. Yeah. But not recognizing that's what was happening, and then still in that energy, and then making decisions in dating, and dating and relating from that space.
Yeah, I remember you calling me one time and you said, so I'm going on a date. And I was like, cool. Who's the person? Do I know them? And then I was like, okay, send their information because I don't know who you're going to. And your response was, child, I've been an adult for a long time.
Honey,
I'm going to knock him out if he does anything. And I was like,
I don't remember saying that, but
point well taken. But I always found that awesome, right? Like I found it that you were just starting, because it took me a while to date.
Yeah.
Like it took me a long time to date. But after my divorce, I just kind of wanted to not hide from the world, but I wanted to not be seen. I did not want to be seen. Not because I think anything was wrong with me. Or to the viewers. But for me, I couldn't see me in the light that I was in, because I didn't like that light. That was a different kind of light. So I wanted to take my time, and I didn't want to date. But I was excited for you when you said, and I always say this to my friends that are, men and women that divorce and go through the process and then they start to date. I always go, how does it feel? And they go, weird as hell. Weird as hell. Was that weird for you?
I picked from my comfort zone. At the beginning, I was like,
such a Marsha way of answering the question, like for real. This is such a Marsha way of answering.
I do. No, I picked, like, there was a guy, like the first person I went out with was a guy who had been a friend for years and years, so I felt comfortable with him. Then it wasn't an alignment. I was a mess. I was a mess. And then I dated an artist who I knew kind of liked me.
I remember that one. Yeah.
And that was very tempestuous relationship, to say the least. But it also was reflective of who I was and where I was at the time, because it's like, okay, I was unsure of myself. I was just distant from myself. So meeting and relating with someone in a way that was like that makes sense. That's the relationship that I would attract, because it's like, if you don't get what you want, you get what you're energetically in alignment
You
with,
get what you
and
get.
you're like what you are.
Yeah.
And at the time, that's what I was energetically in alignment with.
Right.
So I definitely applaud. Also, I'm a big fan of not dating
Mm.
when you're really in a space, and of brokenness
Yeah,
and
I
distance
agree.
from yourself.
I agree.
I also believe that you can heal relationally and heal within relationship, but I
With the
think
right
with the
person.
right person,
Yeah, and that takes a while.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm a big fan, because I feel like there's a period of time we can go further faster in your own little cocoon.
I think I agree with you to a certain degree. And the reason why I say that is because if a person is, let's say, in a bad marriage
Mhm.
and they've already checked out,
Mhm.
but the final paperwork, separation, residency, all of that hasn't changed, but that individual has chosen to work on themselves and healing and figuring out what's better for them,
Mhm.
what's not working for them,
Mhm.
and how to prepare themselves to be
Mhm.
their authentic self.
Yeah.
I think it works, because then if you meet somebody,
Mhm.
you've already worked on yourself.
Mhm.
So you don't really need to, go through that process of however length of time, right?
Yeah.
And then some people who have not healed, even after divorce is over and people have moved on, are still stuck in that space of, why is this happening to me? Then that's a bad place to be in and to
Yeah.
date, because now there's a thing we go through where we generalize everybody's, as if every man is bad or every woman is bad because we're going through stuff.
Yeah.
And I think you know that about me. Like, I've never wanted to be that bitter person after my divorce, and I made a decision for myself that I wasn't going to be the bitter ex-wife, because it happened. I felt like I failed at something. I didn't like the results. It sucked, but I didn't allow it to take me there where I was so bitter, because the minute I become bitter and the minute I start to accept all men are the same, all men do this, I'm going to have to include my wonderful brothers and nephews and best friends and close allies and supporters. I have to include all of them in that.
Yeah.
And I would never do that.
Well,
I never went there, but people do. And then once they get to
Absolutely.
that point, that healing process takes longer,
Mhm.
because now they're already in that, not just rock bottom, because I think we've all hit that in different ways, but they're in that space where they're already just reflecting this very venomous, like, hate towards a specific, kind of person. And so I think you were able to move a little bit faster, perhaps, I wouldn't say
I was big
fast,
mad for.
but
I was big mad for a time though.
I was
big
girl,
mad.
I know, I was
big
there.
mad.
I was there.
Yeah. So yeah, I was big mad for a time,
but not as bad as I've seen some other people.
Yeah.
So
I guess I can't be a judge for anybody else and how they move through the world, but per my own, a standard of being and relating as a human, I fell short of who I know myself and desire myself to be. Because my thing is, you don't have to like respond with that type of energy.
No.
You can stay grounded in who you are, because that it just there's nothing yummy in it. There's just nothing yummy in it. And I think for me now, it's like, when I look at what life is and what I seek to create consciously with the life that I have, is I'm like, if it's not leading towards expansion or yumminess or something
growth
wonderful and growth, something wonderful for my children, it's something, some wonder, some awe, some something community, then what is it? What am I doing here?